Oh, I think we're live. Waiting for it to show. Oh, yep, there it is. Okay, cool. All right, welcome to Morrowind 2. I'm going to be playing Project Zero Dale today. I've had it installed for a while, but my computer was like broken for 2 months. I got a new CPU. My CPU died of all things. And so I got that. And we also have a mod by Johnny Hostile that lets you start in Project Zero Dale. And I have with me Sector. Sector, do you want to tell them what you do?
Yeah, my name's Dave, by the way. I mean, please feel free to just refer to me as Dave. I'm
Certainly.
a member of the OpenMW team. I'm a pretty active member of the community. I work on modding OpenMW. I have a fork of the engine. Um, I have a bunch of mods of my own. I'm really passionate about modding the game. I've been into it for a really long time. So I'm just kind of here to hang out and discuss like what that's like and history and what we've been up to recently and like the kind of plans that we've been working towards over the last year or so, particularly at modding OpenMW and all kinds of things. It's going to be a really off the cuff fun experience about what I do. My particular area of focus is I really like to work on tools and processes. So I have done some work on Umo. I've done a little bit of stuff with Umo. I've done stuff on Delta plugin. I replaced our old one of our old tools called Light Fixes. I made a Rust version of that. Um, yeah, I could probably go on about like lots of little things that I've done in the community, but I've kind of had my hands on everything in some capacity or another. But my main area of focus nominally is that I work on UI stuff, including the construction set and some upcoming software we'll probably talk about for modding OpenMW, where we're trying to put together all of our various tooling because we have a significant amount of and have a nice user interface for everyone.
Yeah, you do. You got a big like Starwind server too. I want one of those.
Yeah, that
Starwind
is
initiative.
that's my longest running project. That's actually how I finally decided to join Discord in general. That was kind of my jumping off point for everything. Because I've been into OpenMW for a very long time from like the outside. And I started hosting Test3MP servers in like 2017. And there was a point early on where my friend and I, who mostly played Morrowind together, we ran across Starwind, and it was a super early build, and it was really bad. But we saw so much potential in it. Like, we thought it was the coolest thing. And we're like, one day, this will be the best S3MP server right here. But we gotta let this dude cook like for a while. And so I just kind of spontaneously remembered that Starwind existed one day, and this is like 5 or 6 years after we agreed to do that. And so yeah, it all kind of popped off from there. That's actually where my handle comes from. Sector is that's the name of the first character that I made on there,
Oh,
and I wanted to like it was how I associated myself with my character. So at first it was just like my profile name in the server, and then I was like, this is a lot cooler than what I usually use anyway. So yeah.
yeah, that's neat. I recently like had a test 3MP server on Infinity. It was up for like a fucking week or so, and yeah, there's just like 20 or so people that registered. It was really cool. They seemed nice. I went on there and just gave stuff away because I was gonna shut it down anyways. It was just an experiment. It's very unexpected.
Yeah, it's quite surprising how many people will just appear in a tester MP server, especially if you have a vanilla one laying
Yeah,
around.
exactly.
It's a good thing to have because loads of people will, not at a time, but over time, you'll be shocked how many randoms you end up getting logged in. Um, I did that last year for a little bit. The server was down for a couple of weeks when I migrated hosts, and I had to clear my throat. The server was down for a couple of weeks when I had to migrate hosts, but I had a vanilla one up, and I just didn't tell anybody about it. Because why would I? It's a Start1 server. Like I'm gonna finish it, and then I'll let you know, right? In the meantime, though, when I came back and I finally got the Start1 components installed and everything was ready to go, I had like 25 characters in there, and none of those were my people that played on my server.
Yeah, I didn't even realize I was in the server browser. I'm like, well, that makes sense, I guess. It's like I I, I had people like discover my Minecraft server just on a laptop in my storage room, and people came on and they were really nice. Like they were actually, I looked them up and they were griefers, but because we were like people on my server were really nice to them. They were like, yeah, and then they ended up like crashing the server because they went too fast, I think is what it was. And I don't know. When I first saw people on there, like my heart or my stomach dropped. I was like, uh-oh. I was like, really hope Test 3MP seems really robust. So I was very surprised with how that all worked out. It was pretty cool.
Well, it depends, right? And like the state of Test 3MP and how you can and run it, and like the problems with it is a big area of focus for me, because I've ran it for so long. I know the thing pretty intimately. There's parts of that code base I don't want to go anywhere near. It's honestly pretty jank under the hood, but it depends on how far you try to extend it, how visible that will ultimately be to you in the end, right? And if you're running a vanilla server, it's very well curated for this, and everything has been optimized to run for that because it's an unchanging target, and most of the server really is like the Test 3MP server really is just a Lua interpreter running LuaJIT, and then like there's networking happening in another thread that does callbacks in the Lua server, right? There isn't a whole lot to it. So it's very easy for them to extend and make patches for specific issues. There's a ton of quote-unquote engine-level fixes in Test 3MP for specific quests or specific spell effects and all kinds of things of that nature. Yeah, and especially like running a Start1 server, you can see under that hood a lot, because when you try to like take the Morrowind world space away from people and put something else in its place, then the whole thing is like really suspect, and you end up having to do a lot of the same work that the Test 3MP developers did, which is nuts. Like it's a lot. TSI has been running for 2 years now, and there are so many concerns to address throughout the entire stack that I don't even really see an end in sight yet to the Test 3MP compatibility issues. It's not even really something that I personally have worked on in the last year or so, because there's other components of the project that have taken a greater amount of my attention.
The good news is at some point, it'll be a mainline problem, or all these things, in theory, because isn't the main client meant to have multiplayer at some point?
Yeah, and I've experimented a bit with it on modern versions of OpenMW. I think Dreamweave is current as of, I don't know, maybe August or October of last year, something like that. I've been waiting on 0.49 to stabilize before I went back in there and really started playing around with the guts in it. But From what I've seen of it so far, I am actually pretty impressed by how easy it is to slot a network environment into what's there already and sort of layer it on top of the event system that they have established. I do think that there are a lot of holes in the abstraction, but they are resolvable, and it's just places where once we make the rubber start meeting the road when it comes to multiplayer, we'll start seeing these things in action. There are a handful of behaviors and functions that you can do from the quote-unquote server side in Lua scripts that will ultimately not make sense, I think. Doing some really basic things, like in global scripts, you can look at an object's bounding box, right? Which doesn't sound like a lot, but that in itself is already like a big problem, because to accurately read something's bounding box, that goes through rendering code in OpenMW. It's the bounding box, it's closing bounds, right? So
Just a bunch of math.
yeah, it's a bunch of open scene graph. It's a bunch of stuff that implies there's a scene happening for you to analyze, right? And so that's something that I think in practice is not going to work out. And that's just one example of it, right? I think as we get deeper into a more serious implementation, we'll find more of these things. I haven't really explored multiplayer much because we have some issues that are, for game clients, they're not really a problem. Mostly, sort of. But for servers, they are absolutely crippling and like game-breaking problems. A simplistic and not entirely accurate, but vaguely functional explanation would be that every cell you visit in the game, like throughout the lifetime of your save, makes your game consume more memory, like in RAM, while the game is running, right? And that never stops. The game does not really unload cells in the way that you would expect it to, in that they do not leave your memory completely. Stuff that is like in the scene and is being rendered will go away because there's no reason to be rendering it anymore. But the references to the objects inside of like a shop or somebody's house, that stuff is all still sitting there crowding up little bits of your RAM. And on your 16 gigabyte, 32 gigabyte, 64, whatever ridiculous amount of RAM you have in your gaming PC, that's not really a problem. But when we try to break it down to a server environment that's really constrained, and you would probably be lucky if you have 2 or 4 gigabytes of RAM, then this starts getting like really bad, because even though we've chopped out a lot of the game subsystems in order to run a server, like who needs graphics code on the server, right? If you install TR on an OpenMW server right now, and you got a bunch of people on it playing it over time, eventually the save is going to get so big that when the server boots, it's going to immediately get OOM killed by the OS. Because the save is just so large, the server needs to consume so much memory in order to even exist. If you had that set up as a service, it would literally just crash over and over and over and over again and fill up your system D logs and be totally useless after a point. You have to wipe your whole server every, honestly, probably like 2 or 3 days, maybe, at the rate it goes, and if you had people playing seriously. But the event system, well, it's a well-known problem because it screws with desktop too. It's part of the reason that our system requirements are as high as they are in practice. Like, you see people with 8 gigabyte machines having trouble with it, and I mean, you know, in modern era, 8 gigabytes is pretty mid, but arguably you should be able to pull this game off with 8 gigabytes. But you play for 2 or 3 weeks, you know, you start exploring dozens of exterior cells. You explore a bunch of people's houses. You go through big forts like the one that you're in right now, where there's like 10 or 12 or however many cells. Like, it just gets out of control.
Yeah, it the log alone got really big over just a couple days. Like had a multiple megabyte log, millions of characters basically. It's like like yeah, I mean, obviously there's a ways around that, but that was something that, I couldn't just set and forget that. Took
Oh
some.
yeah, dude. Um, if it runs long enough, I've had my logs get up into the hundreds of megs a couple of times.
Yeah, it's very
Those
believable.
I was real proud of those ones. I saved those ones. I was like, oh yeah, that's.
I have a MySQL database that's over, it's like 430 megs, and that's just database. I mean, you kind of expect that to be big, but it's a lot of data.
Yeah, I haven't worked with him a lot on it, but I have discussed with Irmer or Irm a few times about the solution to this problem with the memory thing, right? And we do have a path forward on that. He's got some good ideas that enable improvements in the API too, and ultimately what we'll do is we'll start storing portions of the record store in MySQL. Or I apologize, not MySQL, SQLite,
Yeah,
because we
that
do
makes sense.
already use that for the nav mesh databases that the
Right.
engine builds.
Mm.
So you can use the Navigator API through Lua as well. So you do sort of have an indirect interface over a SQLite database in Lua now, if you were thinking about it in like an abstract enough sense. We just have to expand that process out to save data and um, working with records in a more general way.
Yeah, am I supposed to know where the fuck I'm going? Holy cow, I'm lost. Like, holy shit. I think I just went in a circle. I'm pretty sure I did. Sorry, I just.
Yeah, I saw that chicken a minute ago. This place is beautiful, by the way.
Yeah, it's very pretty. I do have the PBR installed still, so like I don't. None of these, some of these TR, what is it, PC textures aren't going to be compatible. Um,
Some of that stuff don't look quite right there, fella. Like, that guy's got some purple armor on.
wait,
But no, yeah, turn around. He was right outside.
oh, but that's not. No, that's correct. He's just fabulous, bro.
Is that?
Yeah, that's not. No, look at that. It's got a gradient there.
Oh, okay. I didn't see him. He's
Yeah,
just dripping.
he's just
He's just got the drip,
he's just majestic as fuck, bro.
bro. That's my purple right there. Yeah, that's that shit. Oh,
Oh,
he's got
look
that
at
little
that.
gemstone on his armor too.
I just want to say that the buffer is the perfect size for this guy too. This guy's um yeah, that's okay, where's the textures? Uh blah blah blah. Oh yeah, more shiny. Oh, well there's so some of it is actually
Man, well, when I see the crazy Ori reports like this, it almost makes me wish that we didn't show the textures on the assets. Because, oh man, some of them are nuts.
it's incredibly hard to digest it sometimes. But I do like it. Maybe as a run flag. What's that?
Can you turn off the full pump when
Yeah,
you get a chance? Because I don't know how to do it now.
got it.
Thank you.
Um, yeah, there was this sea elf quest that is like utterly fascinating to me, and I really want to continue it, but like this place is just unnavigable. Um, I'm relatively good with directions too, but like I'm also maybe I'm not like fully paying attention, but I would really like the ability to point at stuff in game, kind of like a Lethal Company. If you've ever played that, that would be great. I feel like
I've never played me personally, but I am somewhat familiar with it. That game is fascinating. I really like it.
It's kind of addicting. Especially modding it is really fun, and like like shockingly, how do you put it? Like lenient with modding. Like I just threw a bunch of stuff in a bucket, and it all just kind of works. Like, and it's one of those things where it makes you realize, like, huh, like not everything is fucked as Morrowind. Like some things, like I Minecraft modding. I know there's like conflicts and stuff, but like generally speaking, you can throw everything together, and it actually kind of like, hey, sure, maybe it's not balanced, but that's a higher level problem. You know what I mean? But like,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Well, for me, it's, I guess, if I were to put it one way, right, and compare the two of us as people, I am a Morrowind user, as you are to an Arch user, or perhaps as Johnny Hostile is to being an Emacs user, right? Like, the fact that Morrowind itself is so fucked is kind of what makes me get off on it, because there's always so many edge cases, and it's like, I'm gonna try this thing, and the engine is like, well, are you sure about that, kid? And you have to work to understand it, and like arguing with it in that process of uncovering things and problem solving is what makes it fun for me. But it is really ridiculous. You look at almost anything else, and the name of the game is completely different. Like, other people aren't even on the same level that we are.
yeah. I mean, I'm not sitting there trying to interpret binary or anything like that, but like I have somewhat of a good sense of the tooling, at least a little bit on a high level. Um, for reference to anybody who's listening, higher level generally means like you're more reliant on uh, shortcuts and obfuscation, than somebody who's low level, which means it's like kind of weird in computer science. Like low level is harder, but it doesn't sound like it. It sounds almost insulting when you say somebody's low level.
It can be really confusing terminology. And I think a nice way to describe it is, in general, like, if you want to describe something as high level, this is closer to the way that humans think. And if it's low level, then this is closer to the way that machines think, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, a very high level way to interact with an ESP file or a Morrowind mod is to crack open the construction set, and you'll find something in there, and you'll edit it, or you'll delete it, or whatever the heck it is that you're going to do. Whereas if a low level way to edit it would be if you crack that thing open in a hex editor, like I like to do, and we'll just start deleting records in there, and
First
doing
4
whatever.
bits, this and that. Yeah, base 16 bullshit. Or
Yeah, I've tried to have like group lectures where I show everybody how to hex edit ESP files, and it never really works out for me. But I mean, I can, I got notes for myself for later, I guess, at least.
yeah.
It was a really fun thing actually to learn how to do. It's like working with plugins on a super low level like that. OpenMW has some really fun capabilities like buried inside of Lua scripts that there's no way for you to really access right now, other than if you just cheat and do some hex editing, where like you can attach scripts to specific objects. The specific objects meaning like one particular tree, or every instance of one particular tree. So you can save yourself some boilerplate and performance, and you can even embed Lua scripts and Lua data inside of an ESP file if you get extremely toddly about it, which is something that I did in a mod Crassified Navigation, just really to be awful. And it's like I was sitting there trying to think of the worst thing that I could do with that feature, and I was like, that's probably it. I'm going to see if I can just get all of the code inside of an ESP file and then make it load that. It was great. It was like a one-line function, but it was just enough for everybody to look at it and be like, what is wrong with you? I'm like, that's what's wrong with me.
there's so much interesting things to explore here, but at the same time, I'm very lost. This is what I'm looking for. No. 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 How do I... Oh, there it is. Good. Oh, yeah, if you noticed, I'm using the... some of these aren't quite there, but the beta-ish, or these icons, the spell effect and whatnot icons. I really like the way they look.
I'm super proud of the way that they came out. I'm actually quite surprised that they look as good as they do on this vanilla style UI.
Yeah, I really like those preview shots and stuff. Even the UI around it, which ultimately did change. I really like the way they look. I kind of wish they went with for that, but I bet you there was like some considerations to make, like in terms of God, there's a lot of torches here. That's awesome. Like, it's got to run on the Xbox. So like, were those were those gradients even possible? Like, I don't even know. Maybe they were. Maybe it wasn't a big deal. But maybe they...
Oh, sure, because you have to keep in mind the Xbox and PC hardware at the time were really close. The GPU in Xbox was a modified NV102, I think it was, and it was running an Intel CPU in there, and you had IDE disks attached to it on master and slave buses. So the damn thing was literally a desktop. Make no mistake, they were almost the same build.
I was under the impression the graphics technology on the x86 platform wasn't quite caught up yet to something like the Xbox or, the GameCube or something like that.
No, that Xbox, that was what made the Xbox revolutionary. Like, Microsoft was the one that started making consoles PCs. That's why they call it the Xbox in the first place, because it uses everything is standard off-the-shelf components, and it uses the DirectX API, and it's
the
just
DirectX box.
It's just yeah, exactly. They just shoved a desktop into a box, and it's so literally true that in really, really rare cases, and when I say rare, I mean there are 2, maybe 3 models of CPU that have ever been manufactured that can do this, but you can't replace the CPU in an Xbox with a traditional desktop one. It's not a trivial matter, but it is possible. They just they sort of fucked around with it. They changed some things, but it's still a desktop under the hood.
I know. An interesting factoid from that was how they had to essentially reboot the Xbox during load transitions because it had such limited RAM, and it was actually, instead of wiping the RAM, which that would take longer, it was actually quicker to reboot the system, like soft reboot. And it would, automatically just, however, like short the RAM basically and clear it all out at once.
That's such a messed up thing because, like, that technically works. But that is really the worst approach to memory management that you could possibly take. Like, that only would ever work in a console environment where you are not actually simultaneously running any applications at all.
Right. Yeah.
And in the case of a game, it's really, really easy for them to do some kind of trickery like that. And the Xbox was specialized for you to be able to do it very easily.
You would have
Soft mods will take advantage of it too.
You'd have to do like some hibernation shenanigans where you're like saving to disk, and then you have to measure how long that took, and then compare it against just actually just clearing the RAM the normal way or something.
Well, that's pretty much what they would do, right? Because the Xbox, they came with 8 gigabyte hard drives pre-installed, and then it would have 3 cache partitions on X, Y, and Z. So games could arbitrarily store data in there and at runtime and just do whatever. If they were pulling something off of the DVD, then they would store it in the disc like a cache, in order to be able to retrieve it more quickly than they could then from the CD. That was kind of the big advantage that the Xbox had, was that they had this on-disc storage, so they could abuse their actual memory capabilities a lot.
Yeah.
So the design of the hardware and just the idea itself that you have to reboot the console to deal with your memory that you can't manage properly is kind of speaks to the atrocious build quality of the original version of the game, I think.
Yeah. I accidentally just... Goddamn, I love how that looks right there. That lighting.
But yeah, part of the reason that I designed the replacement the way that I did was like I looked at what samples of the originals that we had, and I just really felt like they didn't work. Like there was one that I saw that looked like would have been for alchemy, but it's not the skill icon for alchemy in one of the promo images. And the color palette really was weird. And I think this is kind of where the problem starts, is that the color palette's not really very consistent. And then if you look at the skill icons that they actually gave us, there's too much pink in all of the different schools of magic, particularly. Like the pink looks really cool, but then when you're trying to do a visual design that has the spell schools be distinct from each other, like what is really the difference between pink and red and pink and orange when we're talking about an icon that is going to be rendered at 16 by 16 or 32 by 32?
Oh, yeah.
Right? And that's happening on a CRT monitor in like 800 by 600 or 1024 by 768. So it's these really super low resolution, atrocious displays that really couldn't take advantage of the gradients that we use and the detail and everything that we have available to us now. And also, the original icons for the spell effects, it looked like they wanted to continue using those little sidebars that they have on the skills. Could you show one of those real quick so see what I'm talking about?
Oops. One of the skills in the, like one of these?
One of the skill icons, yeah.
Yeah, like restoration, like...
Yeah, see, it's got that little sidebar there on the left-hand side,
I
right?
forgot we're delayed, but yeah. Yeah.
But those look really, really bad when you scale them down to like the size that that the spell icons are going to be at, because you just can't see anything,
well,
right?
Like
it takes
this
all your
fortify
visibility
skill
away.
right here, when it catches up, is a good... this is a really good example here, this teal and pink. Like, because a lot of these two are complementary colors, so you're just going to get where it looks like, it actually looks like a bug, almost, like a visual bug. This is why I just think we need better, like, UI management in general in Lua and stuff. Like, what if these could be this size? Just like across the board here. I have enough screen real estate for that. Like, in the Magic, the constant effects here, you know, what if these were, what is that, like 16 by 16? That would be cool. Because these are like 4 by 4 or whatever.
Yeah, those are... The icons themselves are 16 by 16 in the Magic menu. And then when they're in your hotbar, they're 32 by 32. At least that's the vanilla behavior.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
I don't know what you got going on here.
No, that makes sense. This is 32 by 32, yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, like it'd be nice if you could just blow them up everywhere. Well, Buff Timers does that essentially, like for the HUD, is just takes all your active effects. You can hide these in my GUI and then have Buff Timers put in the top left. And they're nice and big, which is cool. You can fit tons of them.
Yeah, man. We have so much capability now. I've been really, really, really trying to push people in the community to take greater advantage of this and try to start making replacements for these interfaces, because it's true that you can't go in and like make these piecemeal adjustments to things like people want to do,
Yeah.
but you can just override the entire thing in some respects. And admittedly, not all of these interfaces can be completely replaced right now, like the sleep interface. I tried to do the rest menu myself, and I came out with a really beautiful rest menu, and it was like the last 5% of the mod I couldn't do in the engine right now. And I was like, but it's a great UI. And most of the other ones you can do. You can't do map. You can't totally reproduce the menu interface as it exists now. But I think if people just really embrace the concept of like, I'm going to try to make my own map menu, or I'm going to try to make my own spell menu, and made that work, there is a lot of capability there, and there will be a lot of things made available to us in the future. Like a Sky kind of a thing. I'm not super partial to Sky UI myself because of some of the interactivity elements of it. But I think that those layouts are really good. We could borrow those and implement those in our engine in a really effective way, which is something that I've circled back around to doing recently, actually. I've been trying to replace the inventory. It's been kind of slow going because I've been really agonizing over like what the list layout should look like, and like whether or not you should have icons for what type of item a thing is. I was doing that for a little bit, and
I personally think that's super helpful. Like icon typage, or like, I mean, unique icons are probably the best, but require the most work. But this game already kind of has that, I guess. Like if you're trying to like make it all symbolic linking, or like, you know what I'm saying, like symbolic links where they're like scalable vector graphics, and they're generic, and they describe generally like this is a weapon, so here's a knife icon, but it scales to 1024 or whatever, or what I'm trying to say, like Sky UI is,
Well, what I'm doing with it right now is I have it's typed already, right? So just like the original inventory, you have armor and weapons and clothing layouts. And you click each of those and you cycle between each type. But then most items tend to have a subtype in some form or fashion, right? Weapons will be blunt weapons, or blades, long blades and short blades, spears. There's different kinds of weapons. It's a spectrum, right? So you'll go into the weapons category, and then the long blades will have the long blade skill icon, and the axes will have the axe skill icon, and so on and so forth. And that looks pretty cool, and I don't really mind that. But I was kind of fighting with myself about whether or not I wanted to do it for clothes, because clothes are all unarmored, right? So then when you show icons there in that view in the same way, it's just a bunch of the unarmored icon in a row over and over again. And I'm like, it's a real waste of space, but that unarmored icon I made looks really pretty, and I like looking at it. So should I actually do this or not?
Yeah. I think one thing I keep seeing, people keep asking, because I did this intuitively when I was playing, Morrowind for the first time in a long time, a couple of years ago. I was using Abandoned Flat, and, I like to be an alchemist, so I have all this stuff, and then I just want to hold shift click and have the item go directly to the container in one, like, I don't want to have to, let me find an example. Like, I'm not going to be able to unless I find a chest. But, like, you have two containers, and sure, you can shift-click to grab the whole stack, but then you have to move your mouse over to where you want it to go, like your inventory or something, and then click it again into the inventory. And like in Minecraft, you can just shift click on every item, and it just moves to your inventory. So you just go dot 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 dot. You know what I'm saying? Instead of
Yeah,
move.
you can control click and it will pop a single item out of the stack in your inventory, or if you shift click, it pops the whole stack. Yeah,
Right.
it's great.
But you have to move it like yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, I'm just gonna
Yeah, no, I understand exactly what you're saying, and
like I need to.
that's a big part of
I feel like I need to get out of here.
the fundamental UI experience with this game that I really dislike is just how much mouse movement you have. I feel there's a ridiculous amount of wasted mouse movement.
Yeah, exactly.
How often really do you want that capability to drag something out of a container and put it into the world? Usually what you're trying to do as a player is loot a chest or a corpse. You're probably not going to take everything from it, and if you do, then you'll hit take all or dispose of corpse depending on what you're trying to do, right? So there's already mechanics that allow you to do this a little bit. I feel like the way that the interaction should work is that the drag is the edge case that you have to do something special for, right? And this is one of the reasons that I really want to make my own container interface, because if we had that, then it would facilitate doing stuff like that. We could have a much better inventory layout, and we could even do things like... Actually, I don't remember if the search window is included in containers or not. But if it wasn't, then we could do that. We could filter items and make containers categorized too, which would probably be unnecessary. But, we have all kinds of capability available to us if we start, just embracing the idea of gutting this thing and replacing as much of it as we can.
Yeah, I know there's a chest in here, right? How about you leave me alone? There we go. Where the hell's... There's a chest in here, right? Whoops. Where to find the chest? There's a chest. Ooh, what would happen if that was a mimic, though? Alright, yeah, so, you can control-click this, you can shift-click it, but either way, it's bound to your mouse, and you gotta be like, here we go. But, what I want is, shift click, boom, 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 and they just all go into here. Just I never even have to touch. I don't even have to think about that. I don't even want this to exist. It's like Minecraft. I just wanted to demonstrate
one thing that bothers me, right, is this character doll, right?
Oh, this guy?
Oh my. You do not appear to be wearing pants.
How about that?
I smell cinnamon rolls. Uh-oh. I might have... I'm going to have to finish this thought first. I lost it. I apologize. I smelled cinnamon rolls. Get your pants on, you damn devil woman.
I did actually do that. That was me. Okay. All right. I think I just made natural character growth and decay very angry because I increased my movement speed. Is AI still? Oh, you have to press enter. I've done that so many times.
Oh, yes, right. The character doll.
Yeah.
If you play a game like The Witcher 3, right? I feel like they have just about the ideal inventory where you actually see the real view of your character, and it's showing them in a scene, and then they're overlaid on top of the menu interface. That's really cool, and I really like that design sensibility that they have there. And we can't do something exactly like that in OpenMW because there's no you can't make things get layered over. You can't make three-dimensional objects in the scene that are part of the scene graph be rendered over UI elements, right? There's kind of a differential there. But what mine does is, I just have the inventory cover up like 60% of the screen, and then it zooms the camera over in front of your character, and it's a super fun interactive layout instead of having that silly little character doll, which I think was a great design for like 2002, but it's just so awkward now.
So you're saying this is not real? Is that what you're telling me right now? This
Yeah, dude.
stall?
That's a second copy of you. It is literally like a doll inside of another scene entirely.
Is that how the vanilla game does that?
Yep.
It just sounds like a waste of
brand
time.
new thing. It's essentially like a really fancy post-processing shader that is rendering a totally different scene off to the side.
It is very red in here. Holy shit. Yeah, that just seems okay. It's automated, yeah? Or did they like have to I'm confused by
Yeah,
that.
they clone the there's a reference to the scene graph node for your character, and they just make a duplicate of it inside of a blank scene. And then they render that to a texture, and then everything other than your character is transparent.
Huh.
This is the same idea behind the RTT, or render to texture API, that Wazabear was working on. And that particular API segment would allow us to do things like the character doll that I'm talking shit about right now.
Interesting. Yeah, I've seen RTT in the settings.config. And
Yeah, it's used all over the place in the engine, right? It's doing render to texture is the backbone of having a post-processing or shaders API inside of the engine. Because in order to have shaders or post-processing, you have to take the 3D scene, and then you render it to a texture, and then you pass that big texture onto another smaller program, a shader, that makes it look prettier. And then you do that a few more times with a few more shaders. And then finally, after however many shader runs in an RTT cycle, you end up with the rendered scene in front of you. But there's no API for it right now, so that modders could do it. But it's all over the engine. It's used in water. It's used in the character doll shaders, as I mentioned. Probably more places I'm not even aware of because I don't really work a lot in rendering code.
yeah, there's a lot of really interesting things that are you sort of take for granted because it's just mimicking the original game. Like I brought it up a couple times, but the underwater filter, like for the audio, when you go underwater, all the audio is like, well, not the music, but the sound effects are muffled, if you will. Which means there's like an existence of some kind of audio post-process that nobody has access to. It's just intrinsic to that one scene, that one setup, which is you being underwater. But it lets me know that at least that's possible, or at least give us some knobs to twist or buttons to push, potentially in the Lua side of things. I mean, I imagine that's how that would work.
Oh, yeah. The problem with doing that, though, is that the audio subsystem is... It is technically possible, though.
I mean, I imagine it's just very primitive.
Oh, yeah. It's very primitive. It's very old code. But fortunately, despite it being like 14 years old, mostly, like a lot of the audio code is pretty much the original implementation and didn't really need to change a whole lot. Um, but OpenAL exposes a lot of capabilities to the end user for sure. But the audio backend does need some big reworking before it can be really made available to modders on a wide scale. But right now we can do things like play sounds, and we can pitch them up and down, but we can't do interesting effects on them, like make something sound like it's underwater, or can't really screw with like playback speed, or resuming tracks is not really a thing, or starting at a specific point, or that kind of thing. There are many weaknesses inside of it. It's our audio API is basically the exact same one you get in NW script. It's just in a different language.
How does the MW script? Nobody rewrote the interpreter, right? Like, how does it interpret? How do you interpret MW script? Somebody wrote that, right?
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, we damn sure rewrote the interpreter. Well, I didn't. I had nothing to do with that. That's way before me. So MW script is kind of weird because it's a compiled language. So like you'll write normal human words in the CS, OpenCS or TestCS, and then the Bethesda's construction set at least will compile those down into bytecode or smaller instructions that the engine knows how to interpret. And we call those opcodes. And there'll be 2 characters each. It'll be like AE, and then AE corresponds to equip, and then AF corresponds to play group, which is a thing that will play animations on NPCs and stuff, right? So you have a bunch of these, and then your interpreter just has to read it in these little chunks, line by line, and run the code that way. We're also capable of, we have an MW script compiler as well, kinda, sorta, not really. It doesn't work the same way that Bethesda's does. I don't actually know a ton of details about how script compilation works inside the MW script interpreter, but it is mostly considered to be finished on OpenMW's part, and it's one of those things that like really nobody wants to touch, because doing MW script accurately is really cursed, and it's extremely flimsy because of all of the weird edge cases that we have to reproduce from the way that Bethesda's engine and construction set will handle certain things in mods.
What do you think is causing?
One of my
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, well, like one of my favorite examples of that is how in the construction set you can't set the scale of things to be higher than 2 or lower than 0.5. And so we have to enforce that inside of OpenMW, both inside of the construction set and at the engine level, because if we don't, then it breaks a lot of old MW scripts which relied on that so that they could tell. It's like an initialization thing for them. They would like check the scale of the object, and if it's 0.5, then I'm going to make it 5, and I'll never have to do this again. 20 years of a broke-ass engine and weird mod workarounds will do that to you.
Trying to diagnose this frame dip here. What is this? What is doing that? Is there like a tanker? Oops. Oh well. I'm fucking dead. That is such a... Okay. Whatever.
Nice job.
All right. It's a good thing friendly autosave is there. Friendly autosave saves the day. I'm gonna take a quick bathroom break. I'll be right back. You can, if you want to talk about NetShaman or whatever its name will ultimately be, obviously feel free. I'll be right back in a couple minutes.
Oh yeah, sure. Of course, he wants me to talk about my big fancy GUI project while he's stepping away. We're gonna hang out and enjoy the Jeopardy music and our heads together.
Alrighty. You still with me?
Yeah, sorry about that. I actually stepped away myself.
Yeah, I
Didn't make me talk about my big fancy GUI project by myself while you're gone.
no, I
Rude.
just giving you something giving you something to talk about. I wasn't sure. I just had a tall boy of moon juice and I've been holding in. I had to go to the restroom for like an hour. I was just like, I just got to do it.
Oh yeah, dude. Me too. I understand. Um, yeah. So I guess I haven't really like talked a lot about the plan for it. But so we have basically what we're working up at this stage is we have two separate applications, right? We have Netriman, which is it's a much smaller and more narrowly scoped version of our launcher tech that will end up integrating with the tools pack and automate the installation and connection process and configuration management for test3mp admins. So people like me and Rickoff, who's got OpenZ, which is a test3mp based thing, you'll be able to point at a test3mp server URL and just basically give people a URL, and it will have all of the mods necessary in the load order, and you can even apply ground cover and settings configurations in there and everything like that. We made quite a bit of progress with the with the Towery version, which was a web-based UI. But it ended up being like so ridiculously bloated. Um, there were literally thousands of dependencies in it, and it became completely unmanageable. And I never even did figure out how to build the thing on Windows. I don't. I really was not interested in figuring it out. And when I was building it, originally, we didn't have the tools pack or the configurator. So I had a very specific mentality about the way I was going to put the thing together. And then I just put a bunch of time into it for like 2 months. And by the time I came out the other end, the app that I had built didn't work with any of our other apps anymore. And also, I didn't really like it anymore. The idea was there and it worked mostly, but there were enough things that didn't work and enough things that were unmanageable that I just decided it was time to trash it. And just a few days ago, actually, I went Iced, which is a front-end tech for UI that I had looked at in an early revision and decided to abandon because nobody else on the team writes Rust. And the idea originally was that, eventually I would be able to like rope in some contributions on my mod manager. And nobody else really had the time or maybe interest to, or I don't know. I don't really care. It's cool. But in the end, it kind of ended up being my project, and for all of those reasons, it just felt over time like the web-based stuff was a really bad decision. And I've been really enjoying using Iced instead. It's very, very unapologetic about being like a hardcore Rust first API. And it's also very rewarding for that reason. It's super fast. I get all of the original benefits of using Rust, which are, it's very easy to cross-compile. I can get this out to anybody pretty much effortlessly. And oh my gosh, it's so crisp and responsive. It's really unbelievable. And the developer for it has some amazing hot takes. I love seeing that dude just rant. A couple days ago, I was in there, and he was going on this. He was talking about how, like, the most popular serializer for Rust, which is basically something that you would use like to write files. You'd use to write like a JSON or a TOML file, or maybe you need to write some custom file format. You'd use this thing called a serializer. There's one particular common one that everybody pretty much will use or extend for their own purposes called serde. And he's talking all day about this. I need to separate the types from the actual data being stored. And when you change your schema with serde, it breaks, and it's unnecessarily complicated. And the guy, I honestly couldn't even entirely follow what the guy's grief was with serde. But it was really interesting seeing him rant about it. Somebody else was trying to tell him about how Swift works, which is a front-end thing that you use for Apple devices like iOS and Mac. Mm-hmm. And he was like, yeah, I wrote a serializer for Swift 8 years ago, and I did the same thing. And it's like, oh, okay, this guy
getting some Terry Davis vibes. Like if you haven't even written your own fucking compiler, then don't even talk to me.
Yeah, actually, you know what? That he actually does remind me a lot of Terry Davis. But like, if Terry was still sane and able to defend all of his points in a really shockingly coherent manner, the other person he was talking to was like, well, I'm glad to see that you're bucking the norm and questioning the common ideas of the community. And he was like, I'm not questioning anything, bro. This is a solved problem. It's like, oh, wow. The level of certitude in your
That's funny. Yeah, I used one application that was iced. I think it was a I think it was actually one of those Jam Online sort of applications, and it looked really nice. I was a fan of how it looked, though I can't say for certain if I don't know. I like it. Does it let me use my own window manager? That's what I want to know. I have actually didn't. I forgot to look at that because I'm weird like that.
It will. I think so.
I'd have to double check. It's like
But I've been having a really good time with it. It's shockingly much like working in React is in its own way. It's based off of a much different web framework, but I guess what I'm really learning in the end is that like there's only so many ways that you are going to end up composing a user interface, right?
mm-hmm.
And that shit is mostly rows and columns at the end of the day. So
what the fuck? Did you? I don't know if you saw, but I just had this like way too high level encounter, and I just let Johnny Hostile take care of him. It's pretty funny. But yeah, like it's kind of nice. You went from like how many what's how do I ask the question? How much dependency is the new system compared to, and are you able to like shove Umo back into there, or was that something you were able to do through Tauri?
yeah, well, the Towery integration did not ultimately work the way that I thought it did, and it's at the end of the day, it's not really much different from just having like umo.exe in the same folder as Netchaman and just running it that way. So the way that I'm planning on addressing this problem in the new build is that we will first, when we're initializing the thing, we'll say, hey, do you already have the tools pack? Because if you don't, I could just download it for you, and then we'll run things through that way. As far as dependencies go, we're not done picking up dependencies, so it's going to get bigger. But right now, I believe we're at 384 crates, whereas overall, inside of the tower rebuild, we had, I think it was about 1,500 altogether. And then that's not including the whole web front end, which was going on, which included Vite, the build system. We had TypeScript and React. And then there were, I think that amounted in somewhere around 800 node packages. Plus, and this part will continue in some capacity, we packaged Umo, which was about 24 compiled libraries and about 300 or so Python packages overall, maybe. It was a lot. It was really severe. And the build system was huge, and it really had nothing to do with how you would build a normal Rust application. It was like you had to build it with Node. You could not compile it with just the Rust tooling because it's so intimately linked with its web stack. And you can only produce app images with Tauri, which was another thing that kind of turned me off from it. Not that I have a problem with app images. But I'm a Rust programmer, I've made tons of portable Rust apps that were not app images. They were just Rust apps, and I could just give them to you. So why do I have to have an app image? Well, I have to have an app image because there's this insanely large dependency stack that's completely out of control.
Yeah.
I didn't even know how to start a debug build of the app with Tauri. Like, I knew how to do it through npm, which I guess is the official, like that's the way that you're supposed to do it. But what exactly is npm doing? How could I reproduce that and do it myself? I have no idea. Whereas with the new ice build, it's a typical Rust app. You have one file and you double click it and an application appears in front of your face, which is the way that it should be.
Yeah, that's interesting. On one hand, I like I don't like using web interfaces. I hate when something is like Electron or something like that. But like at the same time, being able to style stuff as if it were a web interface is very attractive. It's like I basically am saying that I would prefer to make something I would never use. That is kind of funny.
Well, the web styling sounds really attractive, right? And the web debugging sounds really attractive. But those things are so ridiculously hyper advanced inside of web interfaces because the technology stack itself is so insanely huge and widely adopted. In like you pay the costs to get the associated benefits. A big part of the reason that I picked Tauri was that I had this thought process of, okay, it's web technology, right? Anybody can do web stuff. If I bitched at Settiness enough, he could probably come and do a component or two for me in his free time if he really felt like it. Like that was my thinking. But that's not necessarily true, number one. And number two, more importantly, the size of the application made it its own form of maintenance issue. Because again, I couldn't even, I never even was able to publish the thing because the build system was just so complicated. So I felt like the trade-off of requiring only Rust code would be much more worthwhile, because then we don't need like somebody who really knows Tauri and somebody who's good at TypeScript and everything like that. Like if it was a very different project with a much larger team of people behind it, like if we had all of the people at Momu, if we had that many of us just working on the mod manager, I'd be happy with using Tauri. But it's just way too much for one or two people to maintain, I think. Something that like what we are trying to do. It's just ridiculous stack. And
Yeah.
Iced is also really rewarding too, because you style it like extremely similarly to web stuff. Everybody pretty much models their user interfaces off of how web stuff is designed. So even if you're not necessarily writing HTML, CSS, JS, you'll be using pretty much the same concepts, because web people are the ones in charge of pretty much all the user interfaces anyway. So, it bleeds out in everything else.
Yeah, I was very surprised to see that like books and scrolls in MW script or in CS were all HTML. I mean, they're probably not really, but they use HTML looking blocks, for example, for breaks or what have you.
Yeah, no, it is legitimately HTML. It's not the full subset of HTML. You get like 6 tags or something like that, but it's straight up HTML, yeah.
Yeah, like I mean, if I was doing that, it's kind of like, I don't know, whatever like BB code interpreter that I've made before. I would just do like a search and replace, basically like a regex. It wouldn't be like whatever the DOM or whatever browsers use. It would just be like, oh, like I'm gonna look for this and then convert it into a /n, like a actual break or something like that. Try. I don't know how you're supposed to do these quests, man. Like fort in the fort.
But yeah, conceptually, Netchaman is really, really like it's a top-down controlled thing. because you don't want people to screw up their load orders and what have you on Test3MP servers. So it is meant to be as stripped down and minimalist as possible as it could be, to be an awesome tool for Test3MP admins, because multiplayer is like, it's where I'm from, that's where my heart is, so like that's the real design focus. And then once we do that and everything there works well, we can expand it into ASHIEMs, which will be our full scale proper mod manager that integrates all the tools. Like for instance, Netchaman is probably not going to use Configurator, just because a lot of the value in Configurator is in using our mod lists and being able to customize them in a really specific way, and that's fine. Like it's a great app. It's just it's inappropriate for multiplayer servers, right? Because if you change your setup in any way, it's going to break and you can't even get online with people. So you want something that is really strict and not able to be screwed with very much, which is great for us iteratively, because we can maybe get some additional traction in the multiplayer project and make it more mainstream for people. And also in the course of doing that, it will facilitate better automation for us. We already made a ton of changes to Umo, our mod downloader, in the process of building Netchaman, and it integrates really, really well. I'm looking forward to when we're able to actually figure that out. It's just been, I got kind of stuck for a while thinking conceptually about how we integrate with everything else. Embedding Umo directly into the apps was like a super aggressive thing to do in terms of how much ownership it takes of Umo and being the Nexus mods downloader on your system and everything. So a lot of the concepts that we're trying to use in it have just changed over time because of how much our tooling has advanced in the last like 6 months.
Yeah,
even.
I feel like it's all happened very quickly.
Yeah, it's kind of nice to get back into maintenance mode, honestly. Just like keep things running.
Yeah, it was very hectic, and now it seems like, what is happening right now? The amount of updates that were happening before, am I in trouble? What's happening? I'm so confused. Yeah, the amount of like Umo's having like an update every day, and in fairness, it does say it's alpha software. But what the fuck just happened? Oh my god! What just happened
over here, man?
I didn't do anything. Like what happened there? That was so weird. And I have to start a new game now. Anyways, yeah, like it's super stabilized now. Like it seems like Configurator's got a once in a blue moon just to add a feature, and Umo is, definitely slowed down the pace in terms of how often it needs to update. What's up,
Yeah,
Goody?
and we really that last Windows update really helped a lot, I think. Even though we're not changing it as much now that we have that nice stable Rust binary backing it so that Microsoft won't bitch at us, it has really calmed down a lot. I haven't seen anybody come and ask us if the thing is a virus for weeks. I want to say it might even have been about a month now. I'm not exactly sure when I realized it stopped, but it definitely just kind of stopped at some point.
There's a
This
piece
is another
of me,
reason I've been kind of hesitant on the UI development stuff, because we were in this phase for a little while where like people every day we have dozens of people. It's just a virus. We got server quotes for it. We got the GitLab issue for it. We got the Reddit post for it. It's like we're everywhere. Like, no, it's not a virus, please. And I just felt like trying to dump a launcher on everybody during all of that would have made it way worse. It would have been really bad.
I yeah, it's just so frustrating how all you have to do is make an application, make it run on Windows, tell people, "Hey, I made something to help you." And then all of a sudden people are like, "Is this a virus? Explain yourself." And you're on the back foot now. You know what I mean? It's just like it's I'm going to make an application that when you run it, it tells you that everything on your computer is a virus because now you have to now you're questioning like, okay, I'm gonna go to Valve. Like, are you gonna do that? Are you gonna go to Valve's GitHub and be like, hey, is this a virus? Like, no, but like, it's just like it's so annoying how a claim can be made so easily, and because it's from Microsoft, it's like, well now, it's like, because what they're not telling you is they're like, hey, this downloads stuff, and it's like, yeah, so does my fucking browser. Like, like what do you mean? Like, I think it's just heuristics, right? Like it's so unreliable, and it just, I don't know. The whole thing is absurd to me. It's so absurd, but it is what it is, I guess.
Well, on the one hand, it is absurd, but on the other hand, if you try to be like the security apparatus is ridiculous, and I'm not arguing this, all right? But on the other hand, you can have both of these things where what our application does is it calls out to some dude's web server and it gets some JSON from it, and then it uses that to inform a bunch of web links that it opens, and then it does a bunch of write access on your disk. There's crypto going on, so it verifies everything that it downloads, and it's also doing a bunch of decompression inside of the system, right? And if you look at that just from an outside perspective, that's what malware does. So if you're doing any kind of like heuristic on it, it's gonna look like it's malware in almost every way that it possibly could. Especially with the way that we compile it with Noitka, which is like it technically is side-loading Python stuff, which is sort of a big security no-no, because that could be interpreted as like I'm secretly loading these Python libraries that you, the user, don't know about.
Well, sure.
So that could legitimately be spooky action. In a lot of cases, it is.
It's almost like the heuristic is fucking useless, though. You know what I mean? It's gonna flag everything unless you pay Microsoft and be like, hey, here's $400 to like. They're like, well, they just gave us $400. It would be really stupid of them to just waste that money to infect 3 people who are trying to install Morrowind mods. Like, it's such a theatrical thing. Like, it's just security theater. And what Goody's saying is like, most antivirus flag a DLL or something. It's like, oh yeah, it just loads code from a library. It's like, I mean, these heuristics just seem, it's like, oh no, my general purpose computer is doing general purpose computing. Oh, fuck. Like, yeah, dude. Like, I mean, anything could happen. That's why, like, trust is important. Like, who did you get the package from? You got it from the moddingopenmw.com website? Then you're probably fine. Why does Microsoft need to butt in? Like, I managed to do just fine without Microsoft telling me what's okay and what's not okay. I've gone 10 years and I haven't got a virus. That I know of, but you know what I'm like. It's just, it's so.
I get it, and the infrastructure is ridiculous, but one thing that I do agree with, even though I don't like it or feel like anybody else should, is that if you are an organization who is operating at the scale of Microsoft with the level of responsibility that they have, especially to other business users, like they have legal responsibilities to try to keep people's machines safe in ways that Linux maintainers simply don't. Like nobody, if there's a really awful security hole in the Linux kernel, nobody has the right to go sue Linus Torvalds over it. Shit is not going to happen, right?
Yeah.
Right.
No
but
warranty.
Microsoft is selling you a product, and they're probably selling people services on the side, and they're also storing lots of customer data. So this financial thing, this big money deal, this is the way that they establish their chain of trust. And if you're operating at a worldwide scale and you're trying to do something that covers anybody on the planet and any organization and any device, I don't really think that there is a much better way to do it than to just be like, "Hey, man, give me some USD, and let me see how legit you really are, and we'll validate your application specifically, and we'll grant you a key to the kingdom.
Yeah,
You have to come to us, and we'll prove that you're legit, and you can be in the club."
Hey,
right?
that's a pretty swell application there. It'd be a shame if something were to happen to it. You know what I'm saying? If only you could sweeten the deal. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what it sounds like to me, honestly. I would like to point out that I do hear the argument a lot, like, oh fuck, I'm gonna die. I don't like Souls combat. Why do I? Come on now. I should turn that off. I don't like that. The swift swim, but like the thing I'm getting at too is like I lost my train of thought because I'm fucking dying.
It is. It can be both things. I think it is very, very mafia-like, where it's extortionary, but it's just. I would challenge anybody to come up with a better solution. Like, I'm willing to entertain better solutions, and I suspect maybe, possibly in a distant future, Microsoft might do something different. But I don't know that there really is one to this in practice. Not at scale.
That was the thing I was thinking of, was the argument that, like, well, we use Microsoft because we have somebody to blame. In practice, like, okay, if you believe that, I just think that's naive, because if that's true, then Microsoft is the only trillion-dollar corporation on Earth that'll take blame for anything. Like, that's just not how that works. Like, you'll get hacked, you'll have to sue, and they will defend themselves, and they will run you dry. That's just how that's going to work. And we see that with, like, the Azure cloud platform, I think it was Outlook. I need to save so I don't have to keep doing this bullshit. But, yeah, like, they had this, like, vulnerability. It was reported to them, and they're like, yeah, we'll fix that in, like, November, and it was still August. And what the funny thing is that for new customers, they were patching it. So old customers, they were rewarded for being loyal by having vulnerable instances of this email server. And what ended up happening was Chinese actors, state actors, presumably, ended up exploiting that. And the government was affected, and I'm pretty sure some corporate businesses and stuff were also affected. And I'm really curious how that's playing out, because I don't see a world where Microsoft doesn't litigate. You know, like, your number one thing as a corporation is never taking blame. So the presumption that, oh, we'll just use this because we have somebody to blame. Yeah, good luck with that. That sounds incredibly naive. That's my 2 cents on that.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, it's not necessarily like it's not really a blame thing, but it's somewhat reasonable that corporations act a little bit unreasonably to try to protect themselves, I guess, if that makes sense. Because, like, if you screw up this kind of a thing, then it could take down your company, right?
Yeah.
Like, consider CrowdStrike, right? They had, like, that little fumble that they had a few months ago tanked their stock value and their reputation really, really, really badly, and they are facing legal ramifications from it, right? So it's like, me and you, we wouldn't sue Microsoft, but if they did something so bad that it happened to fuck over the entire aviation industry and most of the planet for a few days, then we could be having some conversations with them about that, like, as a society, right? Which is what CrowdStrike is facing right now. So these things can happen. And they have before. Like, the government has crawled up Microsoft and made them not do things or to do things in the past. Somewhat similarly to, like, when they got into this big legal battle with Apple about not having Microsoft Word on Macs. It was a huge thing.
So stupid.
Because they said they were going to do it, and then they didn't do it, and then Apple was like, well, no,
man.
fuck you.
Hey, I got an idea. Use like rich text or something that doesn't break when you have a different version. Like, I don't understand. Everybody insists on Office, but it is the most broken, incompatible piece of shit I've ever had the displeasure of using. Crazy. But it's like, no, you have to have it, or I won't take you seriously. It's like, realistically, you should just use PDF if you're that serious. Dude, she is like so hard. Like, why me? I think this is that chick. Yo,
Dude,
this
you
is
gotta
fucked.
use latex,
I'm so
obviously.
fucked. Dude, that's so fucked. She, like, most NPCs will stop and address the real danger and defend themselves, and she's just like, nope, I know I can kill you. She's like, am I in test 3MP? She's behaving very intelligently.
Why do you just keep getting skull fucked here? Like, what am I missing?
I think it's that Uri the Red, redheads, But you know, with CrowdStrike, that same shit happened to Red Hat like a week before that. Did you hear about that?
Not exactly.
The same fucking thing happens, but the difference is Red Hat machines aren't user facing. So nobody really noticed, but it was just as bad, and the IT industry had to deal with it. But when it happened on Windows, well, every like client PC, especially in an office setting, is, or especially in settings where something like endpoint defense would be used. It's like Tracy, or my girlfriend, went to work. She works at Whole Foods, and she noticed. You know what I mean? She's like, all the computers are down. You know what I mean? Like, ordinary people who use a computer, they notice that time. And so that was, but it's not even their first fuck up of that severity. It was just that it happened to be user facing. Oh my God. Please.
Yeah, and well, that's all it really takes. Because once you make a mistake that bad, like, it only takes one to bring down, an entire industry and your company in the end, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
this like ridiculously made up security infrastructure is not just something that Microsoft came up with on their own. This is all kind of pursuant of how or derivative of how the web stack is built, with the chain of trust and certificates and validation. And, this is exactly what running a website is like. We're so spoiled now by the capabilities given to us by Let's Encrypt. Like, dude, it used to be such a huge pain. You probably know how much of a pain in the ass it used to be to roll HTTPS on a website, get a real certificate and everything like that. Like,
it's free now. Like, what the fuck? Yeah.
Yeah, it's free. That shit used to be expensive.
I used to throw
because
money
you had
at
to
it,
participate. Yeah, because you had to buy your way into the chain of trust, right? And it kind of shocks me conceptually, even to this day, that Let's Encrypt is a thing, because I don't really understand how we preserve the chain of trust that used to be there. I imagine we have to almost be to a point where, like, in terms of infrastructure, we could do that with like applications or something like that. But the problem is that with applications, then you have to get your way into the root certificate store of that operating system provider from Microsoft or whatever. Will have to be like, yeah, your Let's Encrypt certificates are valid for your app, which they'll probably never do. They have so much incentive not to. And there are like free app signing alternatives out there. I looked one up, and I actually implemented one for light fixes. I forget what it's called now, but light fixes is signed. All of the builds of it that you get, including the Windows ones, are app signed when you download them.
Interesting.
It's pointless because it doesn't actually prevent you from having Microsoft be like, oh, I don't know what this is. This is a virus. But if you took the time to validate it yourself, you can, and the certs will, they'll be legit. It comes out of GitHub. Like it can't be made to be any more legit than it is without just blowing a bunch of money on it for no reason.
Yeah, that's. Whoa. Okay, this is obviously a bug. That's why I loaded again. Sorry, I was just like. Yeah, when you bring up like Let's Encrypt, or just the way that SSL or TLS used to be, whatever it was back then, HTTPS. It was like, yeah, you just gotta, pay, and you have all these incentives too, like, oh, you're gonna get fucking wrecked in SEO if you're not HTTPS. Yeah, but I don't even have a dynamic. It's just a static web page. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's like, yeah, but I don't have to worry about data. There's no post data. They're not sending me anything. There's nothing important. Why does the connection need to be secure? What if I want the speed benefit of, it just like doesn't matter. You're going to get wrecked in SEO. It's like, fuck, well, fine. I guess I'll cough up the money. I just don't need it for a static website, but all right. Okay. It's invoking similar frustrations. I never would have made that connection, but it's very similar.
Yeah, or even like buying a domain name is its own form of buying your way into the chain of trust, right? Like the technology industry, this is the only way that we are able as an industry to enforce trust, is to take some of your money and know who you are. Because then if you're hosting malware out of moddingopenmw.com. Somebody can report moddingopenmw.com to the federal government, and then some Fed can look up moddingopenmw.com in the domain registry, and they'll be like, oh, Johnny Hostel owns this. Okay, he registered this through blah, blah, blah web provider. And then they can go and take the website down, and, there's recourse for these things when you screw up, and they can take advantage of the fact that you are in that chain of trust, and they can revoke it and do whatever it is that they need to do to counteract you.
Yeah.
There is a give and take, right? Like it is very like it's a mafioso thing for sure, but it always has been. It's not necessarily Microsoft's fault. If anything, they were late to the party. They just happen to annoy more people, I think, in terms of developers. Like, if you're trying to make a native app, you're going to have a bad time.
Looked at one way, you can say, like, oh, well, at least with something like Arch Linux or any kind of Linux or, just a package manager, you can, like, put in your own key rings. You can, like, expand your ring of trust, essentially. It seems like Microsoft is the sole arbiter of who you can trust. I think therein lies a bit of the issue. Being able to sort of take that into your own hands and say, no, I trust this source. Like, there's almost no way to get rid of that blue screen, that blue dialogue where you have to click more info. Like, a lot of people just don't think you can even run it at that point. They're like,
well, there's things that you can do in this vein, right? You can actually do exactly the things that you said. So we have two different options, right? If we wanted to explore app signing without spending the money, well, they're not even two different options. They have to go together, realistically. We would have to self-sign our app, which basically means that instead of Microsoft putting the little bow on it and saying, yeah, this is secure, we sign this, it's legit, Modding OpenMW would be the ones that do that. And then that would be from we would be the root certificate authority there if we did that. And we would have to ask users to add that certificate store in their system in order to use self-signed certificates properly.
Do you use like group policy for that? How is that even done? I'm not sure.
They have a I'm not sure exactly what it is in Windows 10 or 11. It's probably the same thing that they used to have, but like even in Windows 7 they had this certificate manager. I think that was literally what it was called in the control panel, the certificate manager. You can go in and you can add new root CAs. It's just, do you, like, adding a new root certificate authority is, on a security level, it would be as bad as if we were like telling people to disable UAC or their firewall or something like that. It's arguably a lot worse, because if anything ever happened to our security key, then now there's a bunch of modders out there who have modding OpenMW in their root certificate store, and it's compromised, and we can't get it out of there for them. So, like that would legitimately possibly put people in danger. It's not something that we should even consider doing. But it is something that we could do. Like, it's out there. It's just not a good option to take.
Man, I want to.
And it's the exact same thing you could have done with a website, right? Like, you can self-sign an HTTPS certificate, and you might as well wipe your ass with that self-signed certificate.
Yeah, going back to what you were saying about, I'm not doing nav mesh. What is this? I'm not doing this. What you were saying about domains. I mean, I don't need a domain, man. Here's my phone number. Just remember it. You know what I'm saying? Let's put it in a little notepad. Okay, there you go, buddy. You don't need no domain name. Just punch these numbers in. You got it.
Just go edit your host's file, bro. Don't worry about it.
Hey, yeah, you can do that too.
Yeah, like, we don't have to buy our way into it, but how much of that work are we going to actually place upon users at the end of the day? I think it's always really important to consider in the way that you're designing things.
Okay, I'm gonna see if that's a bug in this. I just made a minimal config. I'm just sticking around, because I'm actually real curious. So I just got the bare minimum to get Provincial beginning. So I want to see if I found a bug in Provincial beginning.
Yeah, we broke the game. We're trying to figure out why we broke it.
It's super weird. Like, you go out and those people disappeared. Like, all those I don't even know what I was looking at. I couldn't even ori them because they disappeared. Dude, I can't skip this. I don't know why. I can never skip. I don't know what happened. I can never skip this.
I don't know what it is exactly, but there seem to be 30 to 40% of people I talk to just can never skip the intro video.
Yeah, it's weird. And I tried asking, and somebody's like, how many processes do you have running? And it's like, what? What are you talking about?
What is it? What?
I don't want to say who, but that was very annoying to me. Just I don't know. I have no tolerance for bike shedding. We're not doing this, okay? It's got to be, I don't know what it is, man. Honestly, it's super strange. Ooh, this looks crazy.
It's going to be my first question anytime somebody has a problem with their computer. You're like, can you see how many processes you're running at the moment?
Well, it's just I don't know. If you look at the Windows Task Manager, I don't know how many. I remember back in the day, I tried to keep it under 30. What a fruitless thing that was. But on Linux, it's going to be fucking, I don't know, how many? 1,000?
Oh, yeah.
500. Well, because it's counting a bunch of shit that Windows doesn't count,
Well, there's a pretty significant amount of stuff going on in Windows too. It's just for whatever stupid reason, they have two different interfaces that actually show, I don't understand how they declare it. There's one that shows processes, and there's one that shows things that
tasks.
Said they're a little bit more than process. Yeah.
Yeah. You have a details view, and then you have a task view. I don't understand it either.
Super annoying.
I got to a point where I was trying to understand, and I was like, this is kind of a waste of time.
So,
fuck this.
I did a really fun experiment on Windows in my very, very last install before I killed it, because I just wanted to see if it would work. If you disable UAC, and then you go recursively give yourself ownership of the C drive twice. It's important that you do it twice, so that you override all of the secret admin permissions in the entire system. Just go into the Windows folder and try to delete everything that the system is not actively using. And I did that, and I actually was able to keep the system running, but I deleted a vast majority of the extra like Windows 10 bullshit that I never used, and
Oh,
the
interesting.
Windows Store processes and everything like that. And I just did that recursive deletion like 2 or 3 times to make sure I got everything. And what I came out with was basically LTSC Windows. It was really fascinating. Like you can pretty much just take a consumer desktop and just abuse permissions and delete things until you turn it into LTSC, and it was pretty fun because you can see some of the processes that they run in there are legitimately still so old that it's like Bill Gates' code running in Windows 11.
Okay, why can't I click? Am I tripping? Okay. Who is this and why? This is Project Cyrodiil. K1, this does not help at all. Who is this? Oh, and now I don't have pursuit or helpful guards. So like, okay, hold on. TGM. What if I... See, they disappear though. What the What is... Okay, is that Provincial beginning? That's what I need to know now. Are you following this? Like, what is happening? Oh, do you want to see that guy who's like fucking majestic? Oh my god, it's so slow, dude. That's the vanilla armor. Okay, what is this cell? What is this cell called? Wait, stop. Fort Talodrak Auxiliary Tower. Oh my god, I'm never going to remember that. Hold on. How do I make this... Stop. Fort Talodrak. Okay, let's get to the bottom of this. So let's remove Provincial beginning. Let's rule that out. I probably need to run merge again.
Oh, dude, my hands are starting to bother me again.
What's you got the arthritis?
I got the rightus, man. That's really bad. Like for my age, I was talking to a doctor about it before I left, and yeah, he was like, "Dude, your hands are really fucked up for like 27. You should. I don't know what you're doing to them, but you need to go a little bit easier on it." Like, fuck off, man. I got shit to do.
What do you know, Doc? Okay, we don't need S3 light fixes. No offense. It's breaking my shit right now. Stop it. I don't want to look at that. I'm sure there's a reason. I don't care.
Fuck them.
Okay, let's try that again. Okay,
I
this
gotta deal
time,
with.
no Provincial beginning.
I gotta make a new release of that. I probably should have done that while we were sitting here.
Oh yeah, that's honestly when we do the Momo stream or like meetings while we're doing that, I'll just be like managing my GitLab in the background. It's a good excuse because you know it's like you're in the headspace for it. You know.
Yeah, I've been sitting here slowly working on some components in Netgeman for a little bit.
Nice. Okay. Let's see. Is it Provincial beginning or is this actually a Project Cyrodiil thing? Bro. I found a bug. Dude, I found a bug. That's crazy. So if I just go here, right? That's all I did. Look, this is all I'm loading. That's all I'm doing. I delta patched it. I probably don't need to. That's all I'm doing. And then I just loaded in the cell, Fort Teledrach, Auxiliary Tower. Blah, blah, blah. Interesting.
I love that Christos just naturally happened to pick a bugged area.
Well, it's not bugged if you just do Tamriel data in Seer. But it is. I wonder. I should jot down that ref ID. It's probably not super important, but it might be relevant. Provincial beginning. That is. How does that even happen? Okay, go here. I'm not going to delta patch this time. Man, I almost feel like I shouldn't start a new game because... Okay, here's the thing. If I start a new game, but when I do start the new game and I'm just mashing escape, I can skip it. See? I just skipped it and I fucking was just mashing it like I was playing Two Dicks or fucking DDR or some shit. Fuck. My key actually fell off. Hold on. There, okay. Algor. Dude, what a fucking weird bug. This will be my second bug that I found. The first one was he made it so you can't leave this like area. So all I did was steal something and they kicked me out. Or you weren't supposed to be able to leave until you read the note. And if you just steal something, they kick you out. So you just literal jailbreak. Okay, this is so weird. It's a female too. I thought it was that chick, the one you're supposed to kill. Like, who is that? This character right here is not here without Provincial beginning. This is the strangest damn thing. And then
Maybe we got some wild edit in there, Sonny.
She disappeared. I gotta remember not to tell me her name. So, yeah, is this an Easter egg? I don't understand. It's like a phantom. Night. Okay. I'm probably going to document this and then sign off. I kind of was looking at around 10 to call it. And honestly, I wanted to start a new game this way and just start playing. But I feel like Cyrodiil is very complicated and requires focus. Whereas starting on the mainland, I can just do whatever and dick around because I know it very well. This place is like a goddamn maze, dude.
Yeah, there's a lot going on here. This fort is insane.
Dude, yeah, it's like very twisty. There's a lot of cool places to explore, though. Just in Anvil. And like the rest of the landmass is just so goddamn big. And I get to go back to Sturk, which is lovely. Okay, so see this person right here. I'm going to take a picture. Here they fucking come. You know what I think it is? Is going in a test cell. There's one more test I could do that's actually worthwhile. This should be in my log, right? So, okay. Let's close that. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. There we go. So it's, this person. And the script actually would be good. Because that script is there. What's maybe supposed to happen. I think something about starting there. Okay. I'm curious. Damn you. I'm curious if starting a new game and then COCing there would be funny. See, okay. So now I'm going to start. This is just vanilla with Tamriel rebuilt. No provincial beginning. All I want to do is start a normal new game, and I'm going to mash escape. And I skipped it. I swear this is like a bug. Like if you mash escape, you can skip the intro every time. But if you don't do that, there's a pretty good chance you can't skip it at all. For me, it's like 100%. I've documented it here on stream. I'm going to be sending this. I'm gonna tag the entire Momo team, or not Momo, OpenMW team in the anti-fun zone. Every green name gets tagged, and blue name. Okay, I'm just taking the piss, but I thought it was funny. Damn it.
No, dude, we gotta get more than that. We gotta get all the red names. We gotta do like Oopie did and just ping everybody in the entire community in the middle of the night, and we're gonna like Avengers Endgame this one bug.
And then you can say anything you want on Discord. Okay, anybody watching, you write this down. You can say anything you want. As long as you put in parentheses at the end, this is a pull request. It's legit. It's a fun fact. Most developers don't want you to know that. Like I'm gonna clip that and put that on TikTok.
I'm looking at the script for this guard. I don't see any. I think there might be another script that's controlling the combat behavior, but this doesn't really seem like it's helping.
It's
There is a script on them. The comment says script for extra guards that appear during Q45 during high alert. So this is they're not even she's not even supposed to be present.
Yeah, and she isn't unless you load provincial beginning. I'm gonna test that though too, because I'm doing a normal start without a test play, and then I'm just gonna COC there and see what happens. I just need to get a full character. I mean, I guess you should never really COC, but this is as close as a test as we're gonna get. A proper test, I should say. Oh, there's so many pop-ups, man. Holy shit. I love the no pop-up charge-in. You forget how great that is until you play vanilla.
Oh jeez, I forgot I've had my caps lock on this entire time. This make my text editor be weird.
Okay. Let's TGM. So don't... Dude, how do you jump? Do I not have... Did I not get jump? What happened? I'm sorry, motherfucker. What? What happened here? J? Oh, no, that's journal. Oh. Got unmapped there. No, I don't have mouse load? Okay. Jesus Christ. There we go. Nobody's there. Nobody's there. Crazy. Okay. I'm sure Johnny Hostile is gonna love that. I got a bad feeling that's gonna be a can of worms. It's like, I don't even understand what that can even be. Like, I wonder if there's an event here that happens where all the guards attack and, like, one of them is... It's just so weird how once you pass the gate, they disappear. It's super sus. Somebody who's better at plugins has to look at that. I think I've done all about I can with that to isolate
Yeah, that
it.
looks like it. That looks like it's going to be a bit of a can of worms because that script doesn't really do a whole lot, but it refers to a bunch of other global variables that are probably not being set when the game starts.
Interesting. Yeah, it has... Huh. It's weird, though, because if you just COC there, either as a test character or as, like I just did in vanilla, nothing seems to happen. That is something. I have to unfuck my vanilla profile. Well. Alrighty. Well, I appreciate you being on. Didn't get to do much in Morrowind, but we had a great discussion. And there's plenty from this that I get to clip as well, like bug reports, but also some fun stuff. So I'll have to have you on again sometime. If I don't know if I'm going to stream every week. I'm going to try to, but
Yeah, I'd love to come back again. I sort of had a bit of a bender this week, so I kind of forgot that I needed to prepare for this. I didn't really have a whole lot going on. But it's a nice off-the-cuff conversation. I think we didn't really have any trouble getting that going. So
yeah, there's so much to talk about. But for sure, like, I mean, we're just on the Momo Mumble as well, so like we can have other people, like whoever wants to jump on can jump in. Like I was prepared for somebody just jumping in and be like, oh well, okay, I guess we're doing this now. You know, it's just like that's not a problem either. So yeah, next time we'll see if we can plan out some interesting conversations and actually play some Morrowind properly.
yeah, depending on when we decide to do this again, maybe we'll have our IHVDC server going. I really want to get that set up again.
Ooh, that would actually be fun. Play some Test 3MP on stream. Have different POVs.
Oh god, that sounds like it would be difficult to pull off, though.
Yeah, I mean, we just all have to be streaming, you know? All streaming on our own channels. Like, hey, if you want my POV, go here. If you want his POV, go here. Go to Cyanide and Fiberglass, or... Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Hell yeah. So, yeah, check out Sector. He does a lot of cool shit. Also, it's going to get us a GUI going for all this stuff so people can stop saying that the Momo toolchain was made by a bunch of Linux users. Hey, look, you might be right, okay? But stop wielding that like a pejorative, okay?
Yes, I've actually been sitting here working on that as we speak. I am going to take a shower and caffeinate, give my girl some attention, and then we'll actually be picking that back up. I'm Magical Dave on GitHub. I'm Magical Dave 1 on GitLab. And if you want to come and hang out on Discord, I'm Sector with a 3 instead of an E. And yeah, I think that's pretty much all the breadth of my work.
Yeah, I appreciate you being here, man. And yeah, like, I'll catch everyone probably next week. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. I got I got my computer working, so hopefully I can come up with some stuff. We'll get into a rhythm. And cheers, everyone. Take it easy.